ready. We have a quorum finally. Jordan is joining us on the phone, and we will start the meeting now with 25-154, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes anywhere? No changes?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Motion to approve the agenda in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Next one is 25-155, open forum.
Nothing.
Nobody's on open forum. We'll move to 25-156. Discussion and action of consent agenda of approval of minutes of May 19th and the payment of claims. Is there any questions on either one?
I do.
I got a question. On page 28, is this the first payment we've made to McAllen Gordon of BHC?
No, it would just be in this batch. So there's a spreadsheet on, so before we switched to Skyward, nothing was in the accounting system yet. So the spreadsheet that's in the board folder will say all of the payments that have been made out of the bond account. It is,
And now they missed that.
if you go to the board folder, go to building updates, it is the capital project. Capital project bond account, and it'll say all of the payments and all of the interests since October, really, that have gone through the bond account, yeah.
That's the spreadsheet you put together?
No, this is one Emily put together.
Okay.
This is capital project bond account is its name. And it shows, like Emily was saying, it shows the payments we've made, and then it also shows in green the interest, the money we've gained.
For each month, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just the bond money.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out how to add the insurance money in that and back. Get it back.
That's what I guess the question. This is coming out of the bond money.
Yeah.
What's coming out of capital outlay? You know, that question was.
Nothing since the bond. Nothing on the project since we got the bond money.
When we made payments to the companies that did work that we contracted for.
Yeah, the normal capital outlay.
I mean, is that being accounted for where you can get a total cost, construction cost on the project?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. We need to put the insurance in there, and then we can get the total.
Okay, all right. Because this come up a couple of months ago. Could you make me a copy of that?
Yeah, I can print it off right.
Can you give us some time an update on the AC unit?
Oh yeah, I could do that. Well, I mean, it's not any more than what I.
Okay. If that's what we've been informed of. We're good. I'm good.
I'll ask Rob tomorrow, and I'll text everybody where we're at on it.
Questions? Terry? No. You're good? The agenda?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of May 19th, 2025 regular meeting and payment of claims.
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes and the payment of claims consent agenda. All those in favor? All opposed?
Just me and Luke here, one of us has got to make a
I
motion.
know, it's just gonna have to pass it back and forth.
Jordan, you there?
Yeah, I don't know if I unmuted, but I said I was a yes.
That's some free discount.
Yes.
Catch that.
Is there anybody out there?
Let's try and.
Tell you what, my granola bar tried to kill me earlier. Still
Get
fighting that a little
stuck.
bit, yeah.
Were you saying, see if you could now?
Yeah.
Jordan, can you hear it? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I was a yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All
Yep.
opposed? Motion approved. 25-157 old business, update on construction project.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm going to try and share my screen.
Almost like he's right in front of me.
Let's see. Okay. I got to make this bigger. All right. Is everyone able to see the screen?
No. It's the same as these though.
We
right?
got pictures
Yeah,
in
we
front
have.
of us. Right?
Okay. Okay. Well, I will minimize so I can at least see you guys as well. So a little bit different format than the first board update, hopefully a little bit cleaner, and able to follow along, but just kind of give you kind of a quick summary of where we've been and kind of where we're going. So to date, all site demo and the commons demo has been complete. We've done mass grading at area A, which is the elementary, mass grading in area E, which is the gymnasium, and then partially there in area C and D. Like we spoke last time, area C and D is kind of dependent on the backfill of the concrete walls of the gymnasium. So Eberly, who's doing our earthwork for us, will be coming back as soon as we have the south and west foundation walls built. That'll be coming up here, probably late August. These walls are going to be taking some time with cure time and everything, but once we hit 75% capacity on those concrete walls, we can backfill the south and west walls. And then area A, we do have all footings complete. We are currently working through that area right now as well. They do also have, I'm sure you've driven by the site, they do have the south foundation wall kind of steps up on that south side heading to the east. They have that portion complete as well. I believe they have a little bit more of wall to finish kind of towards the playground allotment area. So that's where we've been. Current area, so area A, like I just said, footings are complete. Obviously, it's been a little wet out there, but we do have the plumbers on site right now doing the plumbing underground rough-in. So we'll be putting all the PVC and everything in the ground to get out to the sanitary sewer for all the restrooms, drinking fountains, and whatnot. We do have the electrician. They are, as of right now, are scheduled to come out towards the end of this week to start their underground rough-in, which will allow our concrete slab to start next week is our target as of right now if the weather holds out. Colby, who's doing the concrete for us, they do have basically all of next week getting that slab on grade prepped and ready. Not a very big slab, but making sure we've got everything good to go there because there is polished concrete in there. So we want to make sure it's as flat and smooth as possible. Those corridors are polished concrete, so want to make sure we get everything done correctly. And then this week as well, we do have our masons on site. They mobilized today. They are doing the 4 window infills on the south side of Area B, which is the existing gymnasium. So essentially where the new building is going to cover the old windows, we're infilling that with CMU and brick to make it look like the rest of the building. So hopefully, I won't say you won't ever see it, but there'll be window infills there with most of the building covering those. So making sure those are infilled before we get too far along. And then while we're in Area A, like I said, concrete slab next week. We are targeting steel to arrive the first part of July. Waiting on some answers from HME right now. They are the week of 7/7 right now for steel, and then through their supplier Volcraft, who's providing the joist and deck that they set once the steel is up. They are targeting sometime the week of the 14th right now. We are hoping to get a little bit better of a date on Area A's joist and deck, so we can get that. And then once joist and deck is complete, then we'll move concrete up to the slab on deck. So we'll get all the roughing done on the slab, and then we'll pour the concrete, and then framing and all that will start taking place, and it'll start moving really quickly. Let's see, moving down to page 2. Already kind of talked through those. That's going to be the quickest moving area right now, just because of the concrete foundations in Area E. Right now, I'm sure you've noticed the weather is taking kind of a hit on us, but we are moving as quickly as we can to get those slabs pumped out, making sure the pad is still in good condition, making sure people aren't driving on it as much as we can, but still allowing for people to move forward. So right now, Coldy is focusing on footings down in the basement. They are mainly focusing, like I said earlier, on that south and west wall. Once those 2 walls are complete and hit their strength, that's basically what releases us for that area C and D. So as of today, they have completed the footings for the entire south wall that runs east and west. They are essentially up to the elevator pit, which is in that southwest corner of area. But basically, you're going to be seeing a lot of concrete, a lot of rebar down in Area E, followed by structural steel. So Area E is definitely our critical path, so trying to keep that area going. So the moment there's rain, trying to get it pumped out as quickly as possible. Let's see. And then if you see the photos that I've got down on page 3, obviously we sent this out last week, so they're about a week behind, and obviously through the weather as well. But the top left picture is Area A with that foundation wall, that step footing, that'll essentially be backfilled up against. The top right picture is Area A as well. They are installing the footings for the columns that is running along 8th Street. So essentially, we'll have a little bit of overhang there with columns hanging, sitting on those pads that you can see where that pump truck is pouring concrete. Lower left, also Area A, digging out, getting the insulation in the footings. Got all rebar inspections passed with third-party inspector and everything, but just kind of a phase before. And then the lower right is Area E. That was from, I believe the last rain event, but we did end up putting in a ramp on the northeast corner to allow concrete trucks and everything to drive down there when the pad is in good condition. But this makes things go a little bit quicker, not having to get a pump truck out there. And then if you can see the screen, I did add 2 pictures this morning, just to give kind of a bit more of a, let me see if I can make this bigger. This is area A. So when I say area A, plumbing, underground, rough in, if you drive by, you can see all the PVC sticking up in the air. But basically have all of our risers. Everything was tested out today. We do have, I know there was a chance for rain tonight, but we do have our plumbers and their diggers mobilizing tomorrow to try and backfill as much as we can so those trenches aren't open to any further weather. Because if those trenches get full of water, then those pipes float, then they have to reset everything, so it just slows down the process. But trying to move as quickly as we can as we get through these. Oh. That's all I've got for you right now. Any questions?
We good?
How far are you behind schedule?
What was that?
How far are you behind schedule as of today?
As of today, we have had some weather days affect us. We are trying to catch back up, but really with the built-in weather days, we're only roughly 2 to 3 days as of right now. But we are working with our trades to try and go as quickly as possible to make those days up and not let it affect our end date by any means. We're still very positive that we're going to get this project done on time.
We good? Okay, I don't believe there's any more questions, Zach.
Kevin, did you have anything?
No, I just followed up with Zach here. We've been communicating back and forth with McCown and Zach and his team on some questions. We're continuing to go through submittals and any RFIs that are coming through. So just keep on coordinating and hoping to see some things go vertical soon. So
Absolutely. I think the whole site's going to change once we start seeing that building go vertical. So it'll be a quick moving process from there. All right. Well,
Okay,
no more questions. We'll have a good night.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
Thanks.
See you.
I didn't know Kevin was on there. All right, we shall move on. 25-158, new business. Discussion action approval of property insurance quotes.
All right. In your packet. I apologize. There's a paper that looks like that with the insurance quotes. It's basically the same policy as what we had last year. They did try to get us into that KSAB Kicks program that we tried the year before, but we're still being held against our claim.
Still won't let us do it.
Yeah, and they said last year it could take us 5 years to have that to not follow us basically. And so looking through it, I think everything is pretty much the same. The only thing is last year, like we have the first policy, and then the initial policy was for 5 million, and then the rest of it was through the property policy 2. This year it's 10 million, and then the rest of it's through the property policy 2. But going through it gives for each of the different sections, it compares the cost wise. But in total, we're about $9,200 cheaper for this coming year than what we were for last year.
How does that work?
$197,000. What about the wind and hail options?
So they're, so we can buy those back, and that would be another, for 2% per occurrence, it'd be another 43,000. For 1%, it'd be another 60,000.
Alright, so what do you mean buy back? That's not included in the 197.
No, that's what that would be on top of the 197.
So we're really talking about 240,000 or 200.
Well, we don't have to. Those are just options that we can.
We don't want wind and hail insurance.
We have it on there. It's just the deductible is 5% for 100,000. It would lower it to 2% or 1%.
So it'll take this 5% down to 2%
Yeah,
for 43,000?
yeah. They gave us those options last year, and we didn't take those.
So we're covered for wind and hail, but the deductible's 5%,
Deductibles,
Or
making sure it was,
and then
5% of the damage or 5% of the premium? 200, 5% to 100,000.
I believe it says 5% or 100,000.
100,000 minimum.
5% to 100,000.
Okay. Subject to $100,000 minimum.
So the most it would be is $100,000.
No, I think it
The
would be.
least it would be is
It would,
100,000.
yeah, 100. The least it would be 100,000.
So our deductible was basically 100,000.
Unless the 5% was above that. I believe that EMC was moving to that. We were hearing a lot of that.
What is this policy covering? I know it's covering the elementary school.
In the VOAG building, and then the modulars are on there. The vehicles. Let's see here. Cyber insurance. Workman's comp. Like general liability.
So we're having to cover the modulars too.
Yeah. Yeah, they required us to have the modulars.
And you talk about if we get one of these hailstorms we could get, or extremely high winds, what would be a guesstimate of how much damage could be done? I know that's, arbitrary, but, it's subjective as hell, but,
Well, what's gonna go into that 5% is what it's gonna cost us.
and what was the 5% of what?
I believe it's of the damage.
It's 5% of the amount of the damage up to $100,000. Up to 100,000?
No, it's minimum
At
100,000.
least 100.
Yeah, it's gonna be at least
It's
100.
gonna be the greater of the two, 5% of the damage or $100,000.
So basically our deductible is $100,000.
Unless it's,
above that.
unless the 5% is
And if it's
160.
200,000, then it'll be 100,000 and 10,000, 110,000,
Yeah, whatever.
whatever that is.
So if it's, correct me
For
if I'm wrong here,
$200,000
my thought,
damage.
if the claim is $200,000, 5% is only 10,000, so we'd have to pay them $100,000. Right?
Yeah.
Is that the way, that's the way I'm
100,000 or
reading it?
10,000.
There's a
Say what?
minimum of $100,000.
Yeah, minimum of 100,000.
All right, if we have $500,000 worth of damage due to wind and hail, how much is the insurance gonna cover?
That would That's 400,000 of it.
Cause 5% would only be
Yeah.
25,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
They're gonna cover 400 or?
they're gonna cover 400,000 of it because
Just
the
do me
25
last year too.
the 25,000. I forgot that. I would have been
Oh,
better prepared
yeah.
for that. So 25. So 500,000. 5% is 25,000. So it would be 100,000 because the minimum's 100,000.
Okay, so we pay 5% up to 100,000, and 100,000 is our top.
No, that's the minimum we pay.
So if it's 500,000, we pay 100,000, and then we pay 5% for the next 400,000. So it'd be 120,000. Does the 5% go on top of the 100,000 is what I'm asking, I guess?
No, I think it's in total of it, is what I would guess.
Cause I remember going through this last year. And this is the same policy we had last year?
Yeah, except for that change with the between the two different policies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was going through there. I didn't see anything else on there.
Two.
What does the premium do?
What even in the month? It starts July 1st. Are you saying the cost to pay it or the total, like to approve it?
When is the effective date of the policy?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Yeah.
So we got 14 days to accept this policy or not.
Correct.
Now, hell, when did you get this?
Friday afternoon.
Yeah, when you got, because then you text them right away.
Yeah, it was right. I texted you right after we got it.
So just, I know that I have to have flood insurance on my house because I'm in a floodplain. This has earthquake and flood excluded. I mean, I understand that if a flood happens and the high school is flooded, we're in trouble anyway, because that's really high up. But I also know that my flood insurance covers things like broken pipes and things like that. That, I mean, water damage is one thing, but broken pipe is a flood damage. Is that something that maybe we,
Well,
I mean, I'm just this
mm-hmm.
questioning. I don't like insurance. I think it's,
The only flood I know about
the insurance, but
is the water, like the big rain when the water came down the hill into the gym, and that was right before I got here. That was the only. Trying to remember, because Wes was telling me about that.
I just, my question is,
I don't think it was covered, but he ended up getting it covered because he convinced the adjuster that it was part of the property, like business personal property.
I'm concerned, you know, if we have a broken pipe or something, running water and stuff, does this, I see a water loss on there, or water damage per occurrence, but does that include the broken pipe issue?
So So what we could do, if you're not ready to approve it tonight, I can get a few more questions answered. But we have to have a special meeting next week to,
Yeah, and I know
to-
that, I'm
to finish the
I'm
year.
questioning. I hate to bypass it if it's gonna cover the broken pipes. I mean, what would it add to the premiums and stuff to have that on there? I'm not worried about the earthquake thing. You know, if that happens, we got nothing to worry about anyway. But
My house wasn't covered because the water came from the outside in. And I don't know if that's relevant to this or not. And you're talking about broken pipes, which is from the inside.
and I was told by my insurance guy that regular insurance, the water damage part does not cover it if the house actually floods with water due to a broken pipe.
So they wouldn't cover
That has-
mine because
that
it
has to be flood
came from the
damage.
outside.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, insurance is a racket, but
Yeah.
the fine line is the fine line, and I'd hate to see us lose a gym floor due to a broken pipe that we can't.
You wanna do a special
Cover.
meeting?
Yeah,
Get a couple questions
that's my job.
answered?
I think so.
Any
I
more
hate to.
questions on
I
this
don't like-
policy?
I don't like doing special meetings, but.
Well, we have to do one next week anyways. So.
Yeah.
Water flood and this
And,
5% thing,
okay.
in my terms.
If you have any other questions, let me know, 'cause
Terry, you got anything on top of your
Well,
head?
just verify that
5%?
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I got it. Okay. We'll hold that, table that, do a special meeting on the insurance.
Well, that's like Tim was talking, when the water come down the big draw and flooded some houses.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't pay off, because the water didn't come from the outside.
Yeah. We'll move on to B. Handbook action, first reading.
Okay, so guys,
Really, if my house floods, we're in trouble. 6 feet above 4th Street.
okay, I have this page here with the changes that were made. Let's see here. So page
Page 3.
correct time for activity period, and that's just, that changed. I think it's changed a couple times over the last couple of years. And then on page 4, the only thing that changed on that was, we read through that and we kinda thought it wasn't really necessary.
Yeah, we're not sure why it's in the handbook. It's just basically lunch recess and, well, first of all, how to enter the cafeteria for lunch, what door to use and things like that, but does it need to be in the handbook? It's more of like just a procedure that. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, and then next one was our classified handbook, and then, so page 7.
You do 2 readings and then approve it, right?
Yeah, so just some observation, evaluation, it just says that they'll be observed and evaluated by the supervisor and or building principal. And then it just lines it out. It's basically the same as what we do for certified staff. We're also developing, or the elementary has really developed a evaluation tool. We kind of held back from showing it this time because we wanted to look at doing some more job specific type ones before we brought it for formal approval. There's that, and then page 14. So basically, this has to do with those who have it. We had it before where if they were there 10 years or more, then they got 40% of whatever leaves the rate of that of a regular substitute teacher when the employee has 10 or more continuous years. And basically, we just added it to read the same as what we did with the certified staff a year ago. And then on E, it's the same. It's the same thing, but this is just the bereavement leave, so it reads the same as what we're doing with the certified staff. Let's see here.
Elementary handbook, page 3.
Yes. Elementary, and I'm sorry, my computer's having.
So we haven't updated the immunization requirements from the state. I don't know when the last, well, I think it says in here like 2017 maybe. And so I just retyped it to what the state is requiring for school age children and just put it in there word for word. And so basically put in the new information. I think there's a couple extra boosters. And I went ahead and put in grades 7 through 12 also, just so that it's all right there, instead of just cutting off at 6th grade. And then just took out all of the previous. It's actually all very similar. I think the only thing that's really been added is hepatitis A and meningitis. But I think since then, it just was kind of worded oddly down below where we took it out. So basically just an update from the state. And then it was kind of in here weird. This was immunizations were right here at the beginning, and then we went to attendance. This is all in green if you go down. Attendance, change of address, social security, party policy, admission to school after an absence, and then it goes to health services.
You're just gonna move them all together.
I want to just move this underneath health services because it's kind of broken up and it doesn't really make sense. So I want to take all that, just kind of flip flop a couple things. So that when we're looking for health, it's all together. You know, makes sense.
Page 20.
Page 20. We have in here that visitors to the classroom. Visitors should obtain a visitor's pass before going to the classroom. Passes should be returned to the office when the visitor is ready to leave the building. This is done for the safety of both visitors and the students. We do not currently have visitor passes. So if this is in our policy, do we either A, need to take it out, or B, make some visitor passes?
If we're gonna eventually go to that lock key system, you probably better get some visitor passes.
Right, and we kind of talked about that. That's, I mean, if that's the goal, we need to have, I don't know if it's like a badge that they need to wear around their neck, or how we want that to look.
I think we've had
Clip it
enough.
onto them, or
We had enough incidents this year that we probably do that. So.
So right now, it's just a sign-in sheet at the office and the note where.
right, and we know that a parent's gone in to go do treats for the birthday party or whatever, but they don't usually take a pass with them.
I got just an outside question. At one point, what would be the most visitors possibly?
On a normal
Yeah, normal week,
week,
weekday.
none. On average, 0.
Okay, but
But
when there's something going
If you
on, then
look
there's,
at maybe one parent a week to come in for something, a birthday party or something like that. Our biggest days would be a holiday.
Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
holiday dinner, or
Yeah.
birthday,
Yes.
we might have a couple or something.
Ag thing.
Yeah,
That would be
Yes.
another one.
Yeah, Ag Safety Day.
Well,
Um,
parents pretty well come in anytime and eat lunch with their kid.
we tell them they can, that they're welcome any day to come in and eat lunch with them or breakfast. But this last year, sometimes it happens on a birthday,
I didn't even make it in this year.
right? So if it's the student's birthday, their parents will come in every once in a while, but it's not a regular basis. You know, I think maybe 1 or 2 a week max. If we could look it up.
Is the pass badge manageable?
Yeah,
Easy
I
to
would
do,
think
fairly easy, easy to do,
Yeah.
cord or a clippy thing.
right. You have, and it needs to be visible so that if other teachers see them, like they have already been checked in instead of just wandering about the building.
Like me.
We looked at, or Chandler
Person.
had us look at
You just leave me one.
a program called Raptor, and it
It's
does a quick background check, and
that scans your face and then
I keep getting after emails
oh really?
Do we have the
every week,
proper
2 or 3.
waivers for that to happen? Huh?
I don't know.
I'm sure it's Raptor. I don't
We
know.
kind of,
Yeah, you gotta.
It's
you
like
gotta-
security
yeah,
email.
people
like
have to
that.
sign a waiver to have
well,
a
there's some
background check done
equipment,
on
we kind
them.
of held off on parts of it,
We count
just
that
because
when they sign
when we
it.
move up to the new building, it makes more sense
You could actually
to do
put
it
it in
then,
that
but.
and say, this
You're
is part of,
going to the office
this is
and now
part of
you
this, part of this sign-in is this waiver.
I-
Right. This background check.
Oh, Jeff is joining this, okay.
I mean, that's a thing.
But right at the moment, I would say leave the pass in. What do you guys think, Terry? Tim?
Well, we've been kind of bantering back and forth about it, but I would say the pass would be good here. She was talking about a waiver thing, or not a waiver, but a thing that scanned them and did a background thing on it. And in order to do a background check on somebody, you have to have them sign a waiver to do that. And, what you
Should
could,
say
like
at
we
the
said,
top
you
of
could
that.
put it in, right in the sign-in sheet, when you sign this, you're allowing us to do a background check on you to.
I probably won't come anymore.
I mean,
Will we find out some things?
I would definitely have somebody legal look at it and make sure it's good,
The Raptor too has.
Terry, what do you think of badges? Good idea or?
Is it a problem now with the sign-in sheets?
No, it's not a problem. But if it's in our policy for them to have a badge, I thought I better check and see if we need to be putting a badge on them.
Well, it wouldn't take that much to implement it, and I think it
No.
would just be another security deal that.
It would be helpful if there is someone in the building and they don't have a badge on,
Make it a
then we
bright
need to
pink or
direct them
lime
to
green,
the
yeah.
office. That way teachers know, okay, they have checked in, they do have a badge, instead of, well, I guess they're fine, cause surely they made it in through a door that's
They
open.
came through the door.
Yeah. So, it would be smart, and hopefully we'll be moving, to something even more
Should be simple.
secure. Yeah. So,
Okay.
Okay, the only other one
yes.
was.
Are we looking at that today too?
Yeah.
The transportation?
Yeah.
So this is gonna come up in, well, it's actually, it's on our policies online, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already on our online policies, it just wasn't in the handbook, so just
Non-assigned riders?
Yeah.
so say a birthday party. So they are allowed to ride if these different reasons. It's on the actual bus route. The actual bus route for that day does not have to be extended or altered to accommodate the non-assigned rider. Then just continues on to the non-assigned rider may ride to a designated drop-off point, they should be met by an adult for transportation to another destination. So like the Beardsley corner or things like that where it's normal. I mean, and if it has to happen, then we have somebody there to pick them up.
I hate to be the devil's advocate on everything, but how do we know that the person, the adult that is picking them up is not someone that's on the list that's not supposed
Shouldn't
to be
be.
picking them up?
Right, who should be in charge of that? Well, yeah, at some point in one of the manuals, it does say that it has to be approved, so many hours in advance, like the day before, depending on if it's the morning or the afternoon. I guess if it's dropping off in the afternoon, it'd have to be approved by a certain time during the day by the principal or superintendent. But when they get there and it's not the designated
that's what I'm
person,
talking
then I
about,
think
yeah.
they're supposed to get back on the bus. I mean, that's what we would do if it was like, we've kind of talked kind of thoroughly about this. If you, same thing at a sporting event.
Yeah.
You've signed off that your child is going with so-and-so, the notes in the office, but that person's not there.
Yeah.
Then they're going back to the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be, so we could add that in there. If,
I would hate to have
Yeah.
something like that happen. Would hope that it wouldn't happen around here, but lots of things happen around here that shouldn't happen around here. Lots of happenings happening.
So yeah, we can add that in there. If, make sure that it's the right person. If it's not, they're going back to school.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, all I had on mine.
Junior, senior. Handbook, page 17.
Jeff, are you able to talk through it? Or do you want me to?
Talk through
The handbook. Your handbook.
Let me see if I can find it here. Sorry, I just got on. Okay. Changes. One thing Lacey probably already touched on, updated the immunization piece of the handbook. So mine looks the same as hers actually on that piece of it.
I think we're about page 17 for dual credit.
Dual credit. Okay. So we used, I guess on page 16 there, we were in need of updating this because we used to do dual credit, and I added concurrent enrollment because that's the type of dual credit we used to do per this handbook. It was where you were in a high school class, and our high school teachers were teaching it, and then there was above and beyond assignments that you did, whether it be English 4 for English, you could get composition credit, college composition credit, American history, American government. There were some other ones there too. But I just updated that to where it said concurrent enrollment, to just help clarify what this policy was intended for. This is still an option. We're actually hoping to do our English comp this year. That way, Mrs. Bass will be qualified to, with her master's degree, be qualified to teach English comp. So she'll teach her 2 sections of English 4. Kids that want to and meet the criteria to can take English composition on top of that. So there's, like I said, some additional assignments, maybe some longer assignments above and beyond the high school requirements for English 4 to get their college composition credit. I guess So that's what that concurrent enrollment piece is. The AccuPlacer score just has changed, so that's why that's highlighted. And then we were wanting to remove, with talking to Colby, the COVID-19 verbiage in there. So, and same thing on the math piece here. And then as that AccuPlacer score seems to change, I just added this piece here. Placement scores are subject to change based on the placement policy of Colby Community College. So, but then the biggest piece here is the college course enrollment policy. So through Colby, just as times have changed, they do a lot of virtual classes that are self-driven. There's not a like our composition we've been doing, which we can possibly still do that too if this doesn't work with Mrs. Bass. There's an instructor who's beamed on first hour, Mrs. Lamb, and she teaches English composition to our high school students first hour. So there's that option with the virtual instructor, but then there's also an option that's more self-driven. Maybe there's videos they watch. They work through that content on their own and work with the Colby instructor. So that's what this policy is just trying to clarify. So I looked at a bunch of other schools that have these opportunities. Winter was a big one I pulled from on their policy, and that's how we fashioned this. So I guess I can read through it here. So college course enrollment policy. Rawlins County offers qualified juniors and seniors the opportunity to enroll in online courses at Colby or other approved college or university. Colby is the one we work with mainly, but we have had kids take a statistics or some math class through another college. So I just wanted to have that in there just in case. During the regular school day, so and obviously with parental permission and administrative approval. So that means they would have a designated class hour in their schedule to do this. We want to make sure. I mean, they could do a virtual class too with an instructor if it fits into the parameters of our hours. What we don't want kids doing is leaving halfway through their history class to go take a college math class. It needs to fit within our schedule for them to do it. So a couple different types there. Dual credit. So the course counts for both high school and college credit. These grades will be included on the student's high school GPA and considered for weekly eligibility. And they could also elect to take the class solely for college credit. In that case, it doesn't appear on the transcript. It doesn't affect your GPA, and we wouldn't consider it for eligibility. Where that falls into place is we require 25 credits to graduate. Most of our students are getting 28. There's cases when they're taking those more challenging classes. There's that question: is it fair for that to affect their high school GPA? If it's not even a credit they need to graduate, is it fair for that to affect their high school GPA and those types of things? So, but this is important. The students choosing the option must confirm with the counselor that they'll still meet all high school graduation requirements. College credit only courses do not fulfill high school requirements. So basically a student, and I think it'd be a rarity, they could elect to take 3 classes somewhere along the way that were solely for college credit. So, and then this is just eligibility requirements. So juniors and seniors at least have a 3.0 or higher. And then in the subject area related to that, at least have an 80% in the prior semester. So if they're going to take English composition as a senior, they need to have had at least an 80% in English 3. but there are some other criteria for that English composition, which were laid out there. But a lot of the other classes don't necessarily have more criteria. So that's just kind of a good baseline. I felt this 80 was appropriate with the 3.0 because, with some of their elective classes, they could have a 3.0, but in a specific area may not have that 80%. So I thought those were appropriate qualifications for that. So just some more scheduling expectations there. I kind of touched on this already. May work on online coursework only during designated periods. There again, we want that to fit into our schedule. So we don't want a student thinking they can get out of halfway through a math class that they're taking here in the high school to get on a college class. And then, they get their designated time, and then any other workload above that's outside of our regular school hours. So, and they're responsible for the fees related to that, as well as the textbooks. The classes that don't go on our high school credit, we don't put them on our transcript. So whichever school, Colby for the most part, they would have a college transcription then. So, and then this is just part of theirs. Only 60 hours can transfer. So that's part of Colby's, I guess. Any questions on that?
I think we're good.
Okay, awesome. The other change I made, like I said, the immunization stuff, I'm not going to read through all that. That mirrors Lacey's. We're through our online platform. We use Imagine Learning Edgenuity. So if a student needed to take credit recovery classes, that's what we would use. So something that's changing though. So we've got a double set of graduation requirements. Students before 2028 these are our old graduation requirements. The state has mandated new graduation requirements. So that's what's laid out here below on page 23. So mathematics hasn't changed. Science really hasn't changed. One thing they've added is a STEM elective. So science, technology, engineering, math. And the way they designate that is, so an advanced math class, an advanced science class, advanced CTE, so a non-entry level class. So advanced math, would be probably above geometry. Above advanced science is going to be, our physics and chemistry classes. And then our CTE, our advanced CTE classes are going to be those non-entry level classes. So like in the ag side of it, our ag fabrication would be an advanced level class. You've taken welding, and now you're designing and engineering and making projects in that fabrication class. Carpentry 2, it's advanced. I can't remember the exact title of it, but it's, you've taken woodworking 1, so the same concept. You know how to build. You have the skills. Now you are designing your own projects, engineering your own projects, and building those. And then there's cabinet making, and then there's a carpentry. There's 2 advanced level courses there. Same would go with Mrs. Pope's classes. She has entry level kind of prerequisites, and then there would be elective above and beyond that in those CTE pathways that would be out for that STEM elective. So social studies hasn't changed.
Hey Jeff, I'm going to ask a question here just because I have no idea. What in the world does CTE mean?
Career and technical education.
Okay, thank you.
So it'd be like our ag classes,
Yeah.
The construction classes, and then Mrs. Pope's, and then our business classes as well. Those all fall under that career technical education.
What happens with a kid that isn't advanced enough to get into these advanced classes? We just don't graduate them?
Well, so the way that, I guess,
I just,
the state's,
I know the state's mandating it. I'm just wondering.
well, yes,
What are they mandating?
but
to do
but
with
the
kids
state's,
that aren't advanced enough to take
wanting
an
us
advanced class?
to have students kind of designate a pathway they want to go down, like a career path. So, and I guess a woodworking 2 class, or a the ag welding. I think there's plenty of opportunities in there, or even through Mrs. Pope's pathway, if they're not necessarily a math student, to where that advanced math fits them, or advanced science. I think there's a wide enough a range of classes there that we should still be able to fit all of our kids in that.
All right. Now, I know you're not the guy making this rule, or that came up with it or not, but you're talking about engineering and stuff in your ag classes, and well, that's pretty advanced math and science. And if we got kids that aren't, anyway, I know it's not you, and I know you're not making up the rules. I'm just kind of confused on which guy riding behind a desk with a pencil came up with that.
Yeah. So, okay.
I like the STEM aspect of it. The advanced part of it, I'm a little concerned with.
Mm-hmm. And there is, we do get to determine what is considered STEM. Just in the frequently asked questions, this is kind of how they're non-entry level, that's just their verbiage on it.
Like I said,
I see what you're saying, and that's the thing. We'll have identify those kids, and as we're working through schedules and everything, and find those find that path that fits where they're going to meet these requirements. I do, like I said, I feel like there's a pathway for every kid to meet this. There really is.
Okay.
So, something else that's changed. It used to be the 4 units of language arts. It's 3. Let's see. Make sure I put this right. It still all falls under language arts. So we've got English 1, English 2. I think I omitted a piece here that I shouldn't have.
Does there need to be an English 4?
Yeah, there must have been something on English 4 there I accidentally deleted, that because it should have been up there in our original graduation requirements too. But the piece they've added in is that 0.5 unit of communications. And depending on the school, bigger schools are able to offer communication classes, whatever those look like. But the solution at a smaller school has been to adjust that English 3 to 0.5 English 3, and then 0.5 of units of communication. So that English 3 year, they're going to take and they did actually, she started this year. She's doing the speech units and adding that stuff to her English 3 class. So that's that 0.5 of communications, and instead of that, a whole 3rd credit of English 3. I may have miswrote that a little bit. I may have to look at that and clean that up. I don't know if I accidentally deleted something out of here on that language arts of our old requirements, because I believe it did have some verbiage on English 4. It can be English 4 or composition. I believe. I'll have to look at an old handbook. I apologize. It used to be physical education, 1 unit of that, and we had physical education health. Now they've just split it out to where it is physical education and health, a 0.5 unit of each. And we cover that. That's what we've been doing in our freshman PE. It's been designated and split out that way forever. So, but just the actual state has changed this requirement to look like I have it here. So, and then the other piece that's changed is this 0.5 credit of financial literacy. And Mr. Schramik is offering that. I think it's financial literacy and entrepreneurship he has together, or it might be business essentials, but he's got that hooked together with another 0.5 credit. And we offer it a couple times a day where it is going to be a requirement. It's our students that are going to be sophomores now that these requirements affect. So, we got that financial literacy started this year, and it's not necessarily a freshman level class. We did have a few freshmen take it, so it's there for those kids to take. So, any questions so far?
I think we're
All right.
ready.
The other piece they've added here is this post-secondary asset. So it's 2 or more accomplishments approved by the state board to demonstrate a pupil will be successful Kansas high school graduate. So, and this is kind of up to our discretion what, the criteria of what a youth apprenticeship is and some of these, but there's a whole long list of things, and a student needs to have 2 of these by the time they graduate. So ACT score is a possibility, college hours is a possibility, assessment scores, community service, an industrial recognized certification. Like we have kids take the OSHA. So Board of Regents curriculum, 4-H Eagle Scout. Even going out for our athletics and activities, they want to see them doing. I think they want to see them doing more than just going to school and going to those classes. They just want them to have some other skills. So this was what they've mandated, post-secondary assets. The last thing it called up. Any questions on that?
Is there an age requirement on when they can complete those? Do they have to be between their freshman and senior year?
Complete these?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I might have to go back and look at that. I would assume yes. They need to score a 3 or 4 on their like the state assessments during their high school years.
When
So
can you apply for Eagle Scout?
No, there's places that they got Eagle Scouts at 13, 14 years old.
Right, so I think that
So that'd be
and
like
your
junior high
4-H
age.
Key Award, because isn't that younger too?
Yeah,
Can't you
it's-
do that?
Is it?
As long as you have them before you graduate, doesn't matter when you get them.
I didn't even think
Yeah.
they do the Key Award here anymore.
Once you got
Do
them, you can't take them
Not
away.
many people. I mean, we did.
I thought they did away with it.
Yeah, I think like Sadie and Kaylee's
That was probably the last
group
match.
was.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
So, a vast majority of our students are going to have 95% attendance, and a vast majority of our students go out for 2 or more activities.
Yeah.
They really do. So, there are some things to kind of maybe clarify on that. And it's been a little gray from the state on some of that. There's forums and frequently asked questions, and but we'll track this with their individual plans of study. And as they enroll and their graduation checks, we'll check this stuff too, just to make sure we're planning ahead and making sure we get all that stuff in before we're panicking as a senior. So, like I said, I don't foresee this being an issue for a big majority of our students. There's going to be some that we're going to have to, be intentional with, and make sure we get them on the path to do these things. One last little thing to point out with that: students may not count a class twice for graduation credit. So in that case, if they take chemistry as a science credit, they couldn't take it as a STEM credit too. Another, like, if they take advanced cabinet making, it can count for their STEM credit, but it's not going to count for one of those 8.5 electives as well. You just can't double bank them is their criteria on that. I will point out that our electives dropped from 10 to 8.5 simply because we added that STEM elective and that half of financial literacy. So that caused us to drop that required elective credits to 8.5. So. Any questions?
Everybody good?
Good.
All right, thank you, Sampson. Mr. Sampson?
The athletic policy, we didn't have any changes to that, right, Jeff?
Yeah, we didn't.
Okay. And then I placed this morning in the board folder for the meeting, but Trevor's been working on the riders and drivers handbook, and it goes through. We'll just go through it real quick, and then we'll move on. But just our mission statement. Trevor's developed a mission statement for the transportation department, the statutes related to transportation in Kansas, and then just the rider requirements, pick up and drop off locations. This isn't the exact language, I don't believe. It's in the policy, I copied word for word, but that matches what's in there. And then with alternative locations, this is where it has to do with like what Lacey was describing in the elementary handbook, with making sure it matches the route. And then just the rider changes, I believe he did match that. And then it goes through the weather decisions with the regular routes, hard surface routes, and cancellation of them. Let's see here. The 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's what we try to meet, but things can happen in that amount of time that we have to change. Let's see here. Expected conduct on the shuttle, and things. Let's see here. Eating and drinking on the route vehicles. Vandalism. So we discussed with if there is that before and after school pickup and drop off can be revoked as part of the policy, but like activity vehicles, it says in the policy that they should be riding with the team, but that means that they're assigned a seat on the activity bus, and then the same with like the shuttles, and then there'd be another consequence included in that. And then just the activity vehicles, expected behaviors through vandalism, decorations, how to handle that, the shuttle buses, and then it starts going through the disciplinary actions. On here, this matches what is in the handbooks. And then we also add, how the appeals process if we needed that, how to go forward. But it basically, if there's 3 incidences on the bus, then you're out for the semester, or 20 days, I believe, is what we said. So if it happened December 15th, the third one, the last 3 days isn't a very big consequence. So, let's see here, and then it just goes through the driver requirements, and then
We found our old transportation manual, and it said the driver needed to be 18 years old. I mean, it's obviously been updated since then, but it was funny because that was the last paper copy we found. So yeah, we didn't think that was probably a great idea.
and then just goes on, talks about loading and unloading, how to handle behavior. That's one thing we've really talked about is the drivers need to report when there's a behavior issue, and so that it can be dealt with. And then mechanical issues, animal or vehicle collisions, contact with law enforcement, severe weather, just speeding, hazardous driving, and then some actions in the event that it's not being followed. And then Trevor's changed some things on how the drivers fuel up the vehicles as far as how it's reported and things like that, and that's pretty much it. But it's in the folder for this meeting for you to look at, and we can make a paper copy if anybody wants one.
I did not see that as a deal.
Yeah,
Again.
we discussed it with the 4 of us on Friday afternoon, and then he made some changes over the weekend, and then I finished up his changes. He had a funeral today, so I put it in this morning.
Oh, okay.
So I believe that's all we have for the handbooks.
Okay. 158 AB down to 158 C. USD 105 needs assessment, discussion action.
So
There's no action need to be taken.
No,
This is just first reading.
Yeah. So as part of the budgeting requirements, we're supposed to go over. Well, we're supposed to develop the needs assessment and then go over it with the board. If you remember, we've done that in September when we were passing the budget. It can be done anytime, and most schools are getting it done. There's some who I've seen on their board minutes that they already have it done. So I was just trying to help move things along and things. But let's see here. So 3348, that's the elementary school's state number, basically. So no, we've gone through this with the budget process the last couple of years. Maybe Lacey, you could just highlight kind of what's changed or kind of some things that we've seen. I don't know if we need to read through it line by line or anything, but
Okay, so it stays pretty steady with our percentage of students with IEPs. I think we're supposed to keep them under a certain percent for the state anyway, and so we've always done a pretty good job with that. And this number includes our students that have just speech only also. So no academic needs. Our ELL, so that's English language learner students, that percent does seem to be on the rise, as it has been the last couple of years, just keeps gaining a couple of percents every year. Our free and reduced lunches are pretty even with what they've been, maybe a little bit lower than they've been in the past, which isn't great for our funding. Our, student counts holding steady, hoping for more. Always want more students, it's always great. Let's see, our tiered system of support, that's what we call our Stampede time. So we do Stampede for reading and Stampede for math at the elementary school. And so we break them out into school-wide, it's basically 45 minutes to an hour, 3 or 4 days a week, where we break them into small groups and hopefully have like 5 kids in a group, sometimes 3 kids in a group, and work on specific skills that they need to be working on. So that's I and J for both of those. And then local assessments to measure reading growth would be our FastBridge. We do have some other ones, but those are seen mostly by the state as, reliable test scores to take. And so we do that. And then with our lower kids, we even do iStation. We have reading and math for iStation, and it kind of breaks it up into even smaller subgroups of what we know needs to happen. So yeah, we use state testing, ability group testing off of the FastBridge, and then what we do with that, basically if our kids are falling below a certain percentile, then we have a SIT team that we meet with. So the student intervention team gets together and we say, okay, are we missing something? What are we missing? Do we need to be doing some behavior situations? Is it academic? And then we kind of track some different things for about 6 weeks. And if we're not seeing any progress, then it could be our student needs to look at an IEP, or we need to, alter something with what's going on. So that's what our SIT team does. And if we scroll down to KISA, basically, how is our social emotional growth being measured? We do SABRS, that's through FastBridge, and so there's 2 parts of SABRS. There's a part where we have the students fill out some different questions on how they're feeling emotionally and safety-wise, and all those questions are actually listed on our webpage. And so if the parents want to see what these questions are their kids are looking at, they can look at those. And then, but we have to have permission from the parents for the students to actually do that. We can't just administer that to the students. We have to have that signed every fall for the students to be allowed to do that. But the teachers can do that at any time. We can assess the students on how we feel they are. If we see maybe they're, having some emotional needs, then we can track that student and see if there's any other things that we need to be doing. So our social emotional growth, we actually have to track that. So this last year we sent out a questionnaire to the students that do receive services through counseling. We have High Plains Mental Health helps us out. We have a counselor at the hospital that helps us with certain students. We have a local person that helps us. So we have like 4 different counseling services that are offered through the elementary school right now. Just it's whoever you have preference with. And so we questioned all those students on how they felt it was going. And the results that we got back were very favorable. So I feel like we're working in a good direction with that. All this is very similar to what it was last year. Basically, how are we assessing them? How do we know this is happening? Well, we stick with the Kansas State standards. and, do what we've been told to do, and we're, making sure that the students are receiving all the things that we can give them. Staff needs, basically have to say, is everybody certified, and how many teachers or how many paras do we have, and do we need all those? Yes. Are there enough counselors, librarians, nurses? Well, we contracted the health department for our nurse, and our librarian is also our art teacher. So, I mean, it's just small school things where that's kind of the way things go. We talked about other necessary repairs for our school, and we put a little narrative in there that yes, we've done a needs assessment, and we will be building a K-12 building with updated spaces and everything that we need there. So that's basically our steps that we're taking for that. So
That's an easy one.
yeah, we finally get to, and then family needs and community relations. Basically what we do with our families throughout the school year with, we have our parent advisory council that we meet with. Every time we meet with PTO, we have a separate meeting with that, so we can get some parent input on, what we need to be doing and different ideas, and, all of our title nights that we have the community come in, and parent teacher conferences, and just school events that hopefully we get younger families in that haven't really been in and they feel comfortable being here. Then when we have the core program that does help some of our younger families, and our ELL, Kay Mitchell got something going this year for the whole school with like a translation type class where
Buffaloes to buffaloes.
Buffaloes to Buffaloes, I think is what it was. So they met every Wednesday night here at the library and worked on their English, and I think the more that we can bridge that, that's good too. So, and then how we communicate out with parents with the Thrill Share, my education data, phone calls, emails, just Facebook and the school website as much as we possibly can. Our school data, it's always kind of interesting when the school year ends, like to see where we lie on some of it with attendance and our chronic absentee rate. I know we've talked about quite a bit lately, and currently it shows that we were at 11.9%, and that's down, I'm thinking like 10% from the year before. So we don't usually see that big of a drop.
What does chronic absenteeism,
So
what dictates
basically,
that?
a student that's been gone more frequently than the others, but it's basically over 10% of your days you've missed. That's like basically the cutoff. And could be doctor's appointments, could be because you really are sick, could be, Mondays you just don't want to be at school. Could be
Family goes on vacation.
family decided to go on a 2-week vacation in the
How
middle of the
much
school
did
year.
it go down?
I think it was, I'd have to look. I think elementary wise, we might have been down like, I can't remember, it was 19.3%, and now we're at 11,
Wow.
11.9.
So it just groups everything all together then?
Yep. Yeah. So, and then district right there, because Jeff put his in too, and we averaged it, and his was down significantly too. I think his is like 16 or something. And so our average was 13.5, and I am pretty sure we were in the 20s as an average. I think it was like 21% last year. So we have, and so, we get to kind of go through the details on why we think this is down. Well, I mean, we've been trying to get that information out to the parents a little bit more. We've been putting out some information on Facebook and the newsletters, like attendance does matter. Our My Education Data program pre-populates a newsletter or a letter that goes home to parents and tells them how many days their students missed, and it's how that hurts their learning. And so we're very happy with that, so that's been kind of nice. And then some of this stuff is from Jeff, but like our graduation rate, dropout rate, everybody graduated and looking good. And then our analysis and the barriers with our school is just like aging facilities, but we have a plan for that. And we put in there, we'll look at the next page here after a while, but just talk about some of the things that we are working towards and how we feel like putting some time and energy into again will also help with some of our like testing scores and things like that. So we'll go over that later, I'm sure. So
Jeff, do you want to go through yours real quick?
Yeah, am I unmuted? Yeah, I can. A lot of what Lacey says really, I mean, the information is very duplicated. I mean, obviously my head count is different, my IEP number, and like she said, the ELL number seems to be on the climb. So that information is a little different. The other thing, our tiered systems of support is different. We use the MyPath program as a means of tiered system of support, and we're going to do 2 30-minute, it'll be 4 days a week for 30 minutes, 2 days of reading and 2 days of math, which will be a little bit of a change from last year. So, and that program is designed to assess them, meet them where they're at, and if they're low, help fill in gaps. If they're advanced or where they need to be, it meets them there and continues to move them forward as well. So is the intentions of that program. So, but we also use FastBridge for our majors with our local assessments. Yeah. I hate to just be redundant because a lot of what Lacey covers, is it flows from the grade school to the high school. We use a lot of the same things, the same social emotional aspects. Sherry talked about that survey. We have our individual plans of study that we work on. We use a program called Zello. It does kind of an interest inventory and lets kids do like career exploration, education, options, or if they're interested in this field path, these are the classes they should take. This is the further education they need. Where can I get that education? If it's not college, a trade school, or it just helps map them on all those paths. So. I guess I'm scrolling on down here to that school data. My attendance rate was 93.5. And Lacey already mentioned my absenteeism rate was 16.4, which is down. I really feel like ours was elevated last year. I think the length of time we ended up being in the church basement, it was kind of, it was a space that worked, but it was a cramped space. And I think there was just some aversion to being in that basement with some of our students that attendance slipped a little bit. In that aspect, I feel the modulars are, a nice bridge to our facilities getting built. We're in a good place where learning can take place. Classrooms are a good size. It's like I said, it's just a good bridge till we get our school built. So, happy to see that graduation rate at 100%. So, I guess ACT score 16.8 in 2024. I can't even remember what the state average is. That's a target area. We need to figure out why. Still need to figure out why we're not where we should be. I believe that is below the average of the state by a little bit. And yeah, this other data kind of does echo what on section 9 there, what Lacey had already said. So I think I covered the differences between the two of ours anyways.
So with that, we're supposed to analyze state assessment data.
Ask the question. Go back to that says budget building needs assessment for budget purposes.
Mm-hmm.
What's it got to do with budget?
Because this is what we have to do. The board has to go through this to pass our budget.
Okay, pass the budget.
Yeah.
And that ain't got anything to do with,
well, hopefully we're taking what we're doing off of this and budgeting towards.
Like, why are we buying whatever should come back to some of this. Like what? Why are some of the things that we ask for?
Well, I know we don't see any dollars and cents.
Not yet. That's like the 6th and 7th page.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So
when Jeff and I are supposed to do our building reports later, we'll just say that we've been working on the handbooks and this. Okay.
So I don't. We see our scores every year, like on the breakdown of this building report card, but it's really hard to see any real information on there. It just says where we scored and things like that. And so I know this isn't the best way to see everything on the small screen. So I'm going to share this with the board so you can kind of look through it.
You gonna send it to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
But so I have like the 23-24 school year. So remember, everything that we do for this thing is based off of last year's, not even this past year's data, it's the year before.
We don't have this year's data yet. We have last year's.
So
when they were still in the church.
So the 22-23 data is what we use for just this past year's budget. And then on down the line. But so I have like the overall scores, and then all the way to when our seniors were third graders, which was in 2015 and 16. So that was the first year they took an assessment. This past year's graduating seniors. So then the reason I did this is so you can kind of see a trend in each class in general of where they're at, when they start their third grade assessment and then move to their fourth grade and on down the line. But it goes through.
And you don't get assessed every year. So like on some of them you'll see that they're blank for 1 year. It's because you don't get assessed every single year on the same thing. Why would we want to do that?
So you're assessed third grade through eighth grade in math and reading. I didn't do science on this one, but and then after that you're tested once in high school, and I just put that as 11th grade. I don't actually know which grade how that's actually figured out, but that kind of gives you an idea of those. So I'll share that. What we really need to go off of is the one that Lacey put together, and she did some data off of our FastBridge assessments that and this is this past year's data.
Yes, this is our actual data from our actual kids this year. So like this first graph, this is readings for FastBridge, and so there's 4 different levels in FastBridge. So there's high risk, some risk, low risk, and college pathway. So the low risk is still considered proficient, right? So basically, if you're looking at like our Kansas State assessments, you'd be a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and so a 3 and 4 are very acceptable. That's what our goals are, and so these are everybody in blue. scored either 3s or 4s, so low risk or college pathway, or from the beginning of the year to the end of the year went up 1 or 2 levels, right? So with FastBridge, say you scored a 500 in the fall and you scored a 501 in the winter, you went up a point, but you probably went down a level because they're expecting at the state that you're going to have growth. And 1 point's not going to give you growth, right? So when I say that they've gone up a whole level, that means that they have gone up everything that they're supposed to plus. Okay? So so anything in blue, that's excellent. Like we want them to go up a level or 2 levels or remain at a 3 and 4. So that's where all of our blues are. Are the students in yellow, students in red, they stayed on the same level. They went up in points, because I'll show you later, but they went up in points, but say they started at 2, they ended at a 2, but they went up in points. Students that are in yellow, they went down. So their score probably went up, but not up enough to stay on that level, okay? So, and technically, and I'd have to look, there's a graph below it, but 94% of our students actually went up in reading in points in general. So there's 2 students, actually I actually have a list of them, that didn't go up. And you can look at them and we're talking IEP students or other situations. We have we know who they are, we know what the problem is, we know what we need to be doing, right? So it gives you a really good indicator of what's going on. So so then right below this graph is math. You want to scroll to math. Same thing, everybody in blue went up 1 or 2 levels or already tested proficient. Red, stay the same, and yellow, they went down. So we're watching them for sure. Same thing. Those are the kids that are definitely on our radar. So then this one right here, this is actual growth. As in, they just didn't go up a couple points, they actually grew. So growth was that blue and the red. The students that didn't grow, that went down for sure, 12.6% of and that's kindergarten through 6th grade. So we're working on them with our interventions for sure, and this was math. So then if you go down one more graph, those are the actual students that went up any points at all.
This is what?
This was, if they went up 1 point, then they're in this. So all students except for 7.5% went up something in reading. Now, I will tell you, some of these students, they went down because they might have scored like a 512, which is an excellent score, and got a 510 the next time, so that shows a couple of those kids too. I mean, which is not a problem, but we know who that is because we get to pull all this up. So, and that's math right there. That's how many students went up in math. So I went and looked at high school, junior high and high school. Same thing, everybody in blue, they were already proficient or they went up 1 or 2 levels. So then students in red stayed on the same level, students in yellow, they went down. So if you look, 7th, 8th, and 10th are the only 3 grade levels that had anything that went down in the junior high and high school. And it's minimal numbers. So we did go through, Jeff and I looked at them to see those red numbers right there, 9th, 10th, and 11th. This is reading right here. It is kind of interesting to see the kids, to see what classes they were in. Was it the online classes? Same thing with math. We kind of pick it apart to see, what we need to do with it. So it is kind of interesting to look at it. So if you scroll to math, same thing. 9th, 10th, and 11th, that was a lot of our online math right there, but it wasn't actually those kids. It was a little bit of a mixture. We kind of thought maybe we'd have a for sure, you know, but anyway, so it was interesting. Now, what I thought was interesting too, and I think it just shows, and maybe Mr. Stoddard's graph shows this too, that once you have scored high, a lot of the times that's where you're going to stay. Same thing if you're in the middle, where you've scored, you score. And, you know, it's kind of interesting. So if you scroll to the next one, this shows his growth or non-growth, right? So there's 4.2% went down in the entire junior high and high school, which is, I thought, amazing, you know, because that's your IEP students are in there too. And so his you know, information from FastBridge was very good in this graph. That's reading, and then below it is math. And then we did go through to see who increased in scores. His wasn't as good as mine, but, you know, trying to convince high school kids to take a test that's not required is sometimes hard. And we can look at the names on the scores and see it's immediate. It comes straight back to the teachers that they can look at it and see, do we think they took it seriously? Did they not? And so then that kind of sets us up for getting them ready for state assessments too. Like, we know that you drag your feet and you don't want to do this, but it is important. It does kind of drive a lot of the ways that we do our instruction and our tiered system of support time. So this is the kind of stuff that we want to go through when we do our in-services. So the time that we set apart to take the time and look at data, this is kind of what we want to do with our teachers. So then they can look at those names on the list and say, hey, he just didn't perform well, or no, this one is really struggling in different things. And so that's our goal basically of the way we set up our calendar this year. So that does go kind of into some of, you know, what you guys said as a school board is little tweaks in the calendar help us to set aside time so that we can actually look at this and then guide our instruction. So, any questions on any of that?
Very interesting. You're gonna shoot this to all of us? Mm-hmm. All this? I should say all of this to,
Yes.
I like seeing current information.
Yes, and that's why we
instead
love
of 2
this.
and 4-year-old stuff.
Right, it's 100%, you know, this happened, we can take that immediately and put that into a graph.
Instead of the ones we did in May, we can't see till October. Then.
Yes. What do you do with
I
that?
don't like that.
Yeah, so.
Let me make sure we don't have to approve this before we go on. I can't remember.
The needs assessment?
Yeah, I can't remember if we. I know we have to say we looked through the needs assessment, but I can't remember if we had to approve it. I neglected to look at that today.
We had a storm up here. Yeah.
I know, I was just texting Aaron. He said it rained some, light rain now. Radar source showed a tornado warning northwest of McDonald, but it doesn't look like much from here. It's clear
a
to
tornado
north.
warning.
So.
That area.
Actually, it's in my office right now because we don't have a basement in our house. So.
Well, Aaron said it's clear out there.
Okay. That's
I don't know what's like in between here.
I don't think we have to formally approve this until the budget. That we just say we have to take it. That we review the.
Okay. So we can move on. Can we take somebody want to take like a 5-minute break?
Yes. Do not go to the district office bathroom. So.
Ashley's hiding in there.
I move we take a 5-minute personal needs break.
Yeah, it's flooding.
We have a motion for a 5-minute break. We have a second.
Yes.
So we have a second. All in favor?
Oh,
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye, there it is. Motion passed. 5 minutes.
about funding for summer school.
All right, we will go back in. We will move on down to 25-159, administration reports.
We have budget workshop on Wednesday, right? Okay. That's the KSDE one. It's in Oakley. So Emily and I go each year to that.
Is that right?
No, that's the
I
blower.
know, I was like, what is that?
Kicked on.
Let's see here.
Were you scared? Like your tent's gonna blow away?
Yeah, getting it.
bit of a
PTSD from that. So, this is just kind of projected balances right now, which is this column here of, these are our main funds. I really should add the project fund one into this. We haven't had that before, so I need to add to my spreadsheet to this, but this is kind of what we're looking at for our fund balances and things. So we're pretty much right on. I am looking at lowering the CTE one, which is code 34, a little bit. Just the actual expenses, we're not too far from having them fully covered each year. And then I raised those a couple years ago, honestly, because we had some different situations. I think we hired new teachers and things like that, and it's pretty stable, which that allows us to account for some higher balances and other funds and things to help get them up there. One thing that we're gonna have to really look at this next year is code 13, which is at risk. We're okay for this year on it, but one thing that we have to really look at is we used the last of the ESSER money, about $40,000 to help supplement that this year. So we're right on that line. And that's where part of that CTE money went and things. So that's just something we'll have to look at. Other than that, this could change. We always have about $50,000-$60,000 that Emily and I talk about each year, where we can pay the bill for this year, or we can wait till next year to pay it, type of thing. And so it may be even worth us looking at lowering something down a little bit just to get it paid on this year's budget. So we'll have a better idea. We have payroll going through this week and things, and then we'll really be able to finalize things next week, which is kind of, I told you that we were going to need a special meeting that last week of June. The 23rd, any of these days, I guess the 23rd Emily's gone, so maybe Wednesday or Thursday, the 24th or 25th would be a better day for us to have that, just so we have some time to get our stuff done.
Earlier the better for harvest.
Earlier the better? Okay. Like earlier in the morning or earlier?
That's just me and Jordan.
Okay.
Well, earlier in the week, because in the morning.
In the morning? Okay. Okay. So I'll send that out and try to get some ideas from
Like
people.
at 6:30?
Huh?
Like 6:30?
Well, we've done
I'm
6:30, I mean, so between that and then the insurance, we may need that, so.
Yep.
I have 2 full day meetings. I have to be at work at 8 o'clock,
Okay,
Tuesday
so-
and Wednesday next week.
So
Well,
if I try to
somebody
do
will
it
show
like
up. Somebody will show up.
Yeah.
if I try to get it
You're
like
busy.
Wednesday the 25th, would that be okay?
When?
Wednesday the 25th?
All we can do is try.
Okay.
It's way too far away to plan.
I know. So, Anyways, that's all I have for my
Okay.
report.
I'll go since Jeff's not here unless he's ready, but we updated our student handbook, classified handbook, certified handbook, went over the needs assessment, so that was nice and full. I have some different things that I have to fill out for at-risk, and like I said, I was looking through like all that data and just kind of got into a rabbit hole of data and just went with it. So the other thing that's been going on at the school is we've had summer school from May 27th through June 6th, and we had 25 to 30 students every day. It's 8:30 to 11:30, and then it backs right up to the lunch program. So we had pretty good attendance of who we asked to come in, so that was good. We have extended title services in the summer too. So Jessica and Kayla were both here for reading and math. They started May 27th, and their last week is this week. So they do 4 weeks consecutively for that, for targeting those students that we were just talking about. So, I mean, we put some good time and energy into them, and we hope to see some progress. And then the summer food program started May 27th, and we've had some record numbers this year, to say the least. Like
125 to like 160 every day. I mean, it's been, I don't think there's been a day where we've served over or under 110.
Yeah.
I think today maybe was somewhat the lowest. It was
Yeah.
like 100.
It's been crazy. I think last year I'm thinking like 80 to 90 was like an okay day.
Yeah.
It feels like a normal day of school. I don't
It
like
does.
what I hear
It's full.
in the cafeteria.
There's a lot of coming and going. I mean,
Mhm.
package them up and go.
So it's been a huge success, for sure. So, but that's about it. My last day was Friday, so I'm technically on vacation.
It's good to see
Thanks
you.
for coming in.
That's good. Jeff is on vacation too, but he's at wrestling camp.
He's at wrestling camp?
Yeah.
Jeff, you there?
I'm here. Yes.
You got anything to report?
No, I mean, like Lacey said, we've been working on needs assessments and going through those handbooks and all that good stuff. And we have gone to Oakley for a couple different trainings in the last couple weeks too. Crisis, we're working on our crisis plans and that type of stuff. It was a good day just to sit down and kind of clean some stuff up and look at some stuff and talk about, our procedures for our tornado drills and fire drills and who we call and who we contact. So, but yeah, other than that, it's been pretty quiet up at the high school. Some construction going on when it's not raining. Yeah. And then
We knew when they started construction, this would be our wet year.
Yep. So
I don't think I've ever seen their bills have green on them since I've been here. Anyways.
Okay.
How's wrestling camp going?
I'm good. I mean, it's the Maggie. She's wrestling with a combined team with St. Francis, and there's some Russell kids and some Beloit kids on that team with Maggie, and the girls' side of it, I think they're doing really well. Our boys' team got joined up with Pleasanton and then Kearney Catholic. So, we're winning matches. We're winning some matches. We're kind of young, but it's always a good camp to get in a lot of matches. And then there's some pretty good technicians here too. So I always enjoy coming along. It's a fun one. So we'll be here till Wednesday.
Have you injured yourself?
I don't get involved in the wrestling here,
Oh,
so
okay.
I just watch it.
Why?
My throat's a little sore from yelling, but I take that back. I injured myself. I stubbed my toe. There's a weird lip. There's a weird lip going into the bathroom in my hotel room, and I've got a black and blue toe out of the deal.
Oh my gosh. Put that in the report.
Well,
Yes.
I had to get 35 stitches trying to get into my bed. So. So I showed you that, Perry?
Yeah, you told me about that. Oh, this
Okay, thanks.
Well, a couple
Jeff,
years ago.
Jeff.
Yeah.
But
All right, we'll move on. 25-160 executive session.
We don't need A.
Do not need A. No hires and resignations and retirement. A B, negotiations. That shouldn't take too long.
No.
How long?
We'll do it in 5 minutes, probably.
We'll start with that one. 5 minutes.
Maybe we go into executive session, board and
Pardon?
admin
Which one we going on?
B, negotiations.
Negotiation.
for negotiations for 5
5
minutes.
minutes. Board and admin.
Second.
And a second. 5 minutes, board and admin. All in favor?
Do
Aye.
what?
All opposed?
Oh,
Motion passed.
yeah. We need to call Jordan and Jeff for this. So that they're not on there.
Oh, that's right.
You mind calling Jeff and I'll call Jordan?
Okay. Did you tell them we're gonna call them?
Nope, we're just gonna call.
We're gonna call you guys. We're going.
Okay, sounds good.
Executive.
See if Jeff answers.
Is B, we go to C. We need, how many minutes for classified staff?
10 minutes.
I mean,
10.
I'll make a motion to go in executive session for 10 minutes for non-elected personnel, classified staff.
Board and admin.
Yeah, and
Or in that,
I'm fine if Jeff wants to head out.
I'll second.
I won't argue with you.
Okay.
Okay, we have a 5 minute,
He's missing the
10 minute executive section for classified
See ya.
Bye.
staff. Board and admin, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion passed. We're back in session. Is there any action, Mr. Terry?
President, I make a motion that we renew the non-elected personnel certified staff for the 25
Classified.
classified staff, pardon me, for the 25-26 school year,
I'll second it.
as presented.
As presented, yep. We
Second
have a
that.
motion to accept classified staff renewal contracts as presented, and a second by Tim. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passed. We will move on to D, non-elected personnel supplemental position.
Hello.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, sir.
We will go into executive session. Board and admin for non-elected personnel supplemental positions for 5 minutes.
We motion to an executive session, supplemental personnel, position for 5 minutes. Board and admin, correct?
Yep.
All, we have a second?
Second.
And all those in favor? All opposed?
And you're good.
We're good?
You're good.
We're back in session. Action, do we have any action?
I make a motion that, we approve the, positions of non-elected personnel for supplemental positions as presented.
We have a motion for the supplemental position as presented,
Second.
and a second, all those in favor? All opposed, motion passed. Are we there?
We're on as well. You have one last thing to say.
Sure,
You
you
know it.
You got a
I
second,
make a motion that we adjourn.
is there a second? Motion to adjourn, is second by George. All in favor?
No.
We have to have
I'm so excited.
a vote for this, right?
Yeah.
You abstain. All opposed, motion
Yeah.
passed.